Title: 4 Real Haunted Houses You Should Never Visit on Halloween True Horror Documentary. Help this channel grow. Like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe for more stories. This helps us a lot. Thank you. The story begins. Story 1. The Marlowe House, Virginia, USA. In the heart of Virginia's Shenandoah Valley, where the fog hangs low and the hills seem to whisper after dark, there stands a farmhouse known to locals simply as the Marlowe House. For decades, no one has lived there longer than a few months. Yet, every October, someone new tries. The property itself looks harmless, pale yellow paint fading under the southern sun, a porch swing that creaks with the wind, and fields that once fed 3 generations of the Marlowe family. But the house carries a history that even the bravest locals refuse to discuss. They say the walls remember what happened there, and that's why no one stays. According to public records, the Marlowes moved into the farmhouse in 1932. By 1950, all of them were gone. No tragedy made the papers, no bodies were ever found. The property simply changed hands, and the next family moved in. Then they too left suddenly, furniture still in place, dinner plates on the table, lights left burning. When investigators from the local historical society visited in 1998, they found something strange. In the main bedroom, the wallpaper had been torn away in long vertical strips, as if clawed off from the inside. Even stranger, the marks didn't start at the floor or ceiling. They began midway up the wall, as if someone standing on a bed had been pulled backward. By 2010, the Marlowe house had become a local legend. Teenagers dared each other to visit it on Halloween night, filming their bravery for social media. Most of those videos showed nothing, just wind and darkness. But one video, posted in 2014 and deleted 48 hours later, changed everything. In the clip, 2 college students, Ryan and Kelsey, entered the house at 11:52 p.m. They joked nervously as they moved from room to room, their flashlights cutting through dust. Everything looked ordinary until they reached the master bedroom. The camera caught something faint in the mirror, a reflection of a person standing behind them. But when they turned around, no one was there. The recording continued. The mirror fogged up slightly, and a single handprint appeared from the inside, pressing outward. Both students screamed, the phone fell, and the last frame captured the room empty again, except for the faint sound of something swinging, the porch chain, moving though no wind blew. Police found Ryan's phone on the property the next morning, but not the students. They were reported missing for 3 days before turning up, disoriented, 12 miles away near Route 11. They claimed they had woken up in the woods with no memory of leaving the house. After that, the county sealed the property. But the footage, mirrored, reposted, re-uploaded, still circulates online under different names. The Marlowe tape, the Virginia ghost stream, and the hands behind the mirror. Paranormal researchers who analyzed the video noted an anomaly, a cold distortion in the frame exactly 5 seconds before the mirror fogged. It matched a temperature drop of 20 degrees captured on-site weeks later. And though skeptics called it digital interference, local historians had their own theory. The original Marlowe matriarch, Evelyn Marlowe, was known to keep a mirror at the foot of her bed so the dead could watch over her. Her personal diary, found in 2002, contained one final entry before the family vanished. The mirror is waking up again. The voices say the house is full. Since then, dozens of restoration groups have attempted to purchase the farmhouse. Every deal collapses before closing. Contractors report seeing figures on the property when no one's scheduled to visit. As of 2025, the land remains unsold, tax defaulted and fenced off by the county. Still, every Halloween, passers-by swear they see a faint orange glow in the window of the master bedroom. Some say it's the light of a lantern, others a trick of moonlight. But if you stand there long enough, quiet, still, staring through the glass, you might see what they all describe. A faint reflection forming in the dark. Not of you, but of someone standing behind you. And then, the porch swing moves again. Story 2. The Holloway Residence, Derbyshire, England. In the quiet countryside of Derbyshire, England, down a road too narrow for 2 cars to pass, sits an old stone manor the locals call the Holloway Residence. It looks picturesque from a distance, ivy-covered walls, arched windows, and a fountain frozen in time at the center of its courtyard. But those who have stepped inside say that time doesn't just feel strange there, it stops. The Holloway family built the manor in 1876, and by the early 1900s, it had become one of the largest estates in the region. But beginning in 1912, something started happening that no one could explain. Servants began reporting that the grandfather clock in the main hall would strike 13 times at midnight. The sound echoed through the entire house, though the clock's hands never moved past 12. At first, it was brushed off as superstition, until one night the clock stopped altogether, its pendulum swinging in midair, completely still. For decades, the Holloway residence stood abandoned, passing from one distant relative to another until it was purchased in 1979 by an architect named Thomas Reeves. Reeves wanted to restore it into a historical bed and breakfast. But within 2 months, the workers refused to return. One of them, a bricklayer named Owen Clark, filed a statement with the Derbyshire police. He claimed that while repairing the east wing, he kept hearing footsteps walking across the wooden floors above him, though the second floor had been gutted and was missing all floorboards. Another reported that tools would disappear overnight and reappear arranged neatly on the stairs, pointing toward the attic. Reeves himself didn't believe any of it, until October 31, 1980. He was in the study that night, working on renovation plans when he heard the faint tick of the grandfather clock for the first time since moving in. Then it struck midnight, twice, then a 13th time. Reeves looked up from his desk. The pendulum had started swinging again. And then everything went silent. No wind, no movement, not even the faint hum of electricity. He described it later as the air itself holding its breath. The following morning, neighbors noticed every light in the house still burning, though no one answered the door. When authorities entered, they found Reeves sitting at his desk, alive but unresponsive, his eyes fixed on the clock. Hospital staff later confirmed he had no memory of what happened between midnight and dawn. He sold the house the following year. In 2005, the Derbyshire Historical Society filmed an episode there for a local TV program about haunted properties. The footage was never aired. Crew members reported technical malfunctions, cameras freezing, batteries dying simultaneously, and microphones picking up what sounded like breathing directly behind the person holding them. When one of the archivists later reviewed the raw tapes, she discovered something unsettling. Every clock in the footage, wall clocks, pocket watches, even digital timestamps, froze at 12:13 a.m. To this day, locals refuse to go near the property on Halloween. Some say the manor replays that night endlessly, 12:13 frozen between one Halloween and the next. Others believe anyone who enters at midnight will not come out until the clock restarts a year later. In 2018, a new owner, an American photographer, bought the Holloway residence with the intent to film a documentary. She lasted 6 days. In her final post on social media, timestamp 12:13 a.m., she wrote, "It's midnight again. The air won't move. I think I'm still in yesterday." Her car was found running outside the gates the next morning. The house was empty. Today, the Holloway residence still stands, perfectly preserved, perfectly still. Every clock inside remains frozen at the same minute, and no one has been able to restart them. Visitors who walk the perimeter say their watches slow down near the gates, and cell phone recordings taken there always corrupt exactly 13 seconds in. The house has no official caretakers, but on clear autumn nights, when the fog sits low and the air feels heavier than usual, a faint sound drifts through the countryside. The echo of an old clock chiming 13 times. And just like that, midnight starts again. Story 3. The Corman Cabin, Ontario, Canada. Deep in the woods outside Thunder Bay, Ontario, there's a small log cabin locals simply call the Corman Cabin. It's isolated, no paved road leads to it, and cell service dies miles before you reach the property. In summer, the trees swallow the path. In winter, the snow hides every trace of it. For most people, the cabin doesn't exist. But for those who've been there, it's impossible to forget. The story begins in 1973, when David and Helen Corman, a couple from Toronto, bought the property as a honeymoon retreat. According to the sales records, the cabin had been abandoned since 1951. The realtor at the time noted that repairs would be minor, though the structure seemed untouched by weather, and the glass in every window was perfectly clean, as if someone had been maintaining it. For the first week, the Cormans wrote cheerful letters to family describing the peace of the place, the clear lake, the quiet mornings. But by the second week, their tone shifted. Helen mentioned hearing the reflection move. David brushed it off as poetic phrasing until their letters stopped arriving altogether. In late November, authorities hiked into the woods to check on them. What they found was strange, but not violent. The cabin was in perfect order. The bed made, food on the table, both sets of boots by the door, but no footprints leading away in the snow. The only oddity noted in the report, every mirror in the house, including a small hand mirror, had been turned to face the walls. Decades passed before anyone went back. The Corman disappearance was filed as a cold case. No remains, no evidence, no answers. But in 2001, a group of hikers stumbled across the site and decided to stay overnight. One of them, Mark Peterson, later gave a statement to the Ontario Provincial Police. He said they built a fire, cooked dinner, and started taking photos of the cabin interior. When they checked the digital images later, every photo of the living room showed an extra reflection. A pale figure standing in the background of the window pane, visible only in the glass, never in person. Peterson deleted the photos immediately, but one of them was recovered from his old memory card years later. Investigators confirmed that the timestamp of the image was 2:46 a.m., the exact time weather data recorded a lightning strike directly over the property. No one from that group has returned since. By 2016, the legend of the Corman cabin resurfaced on online forums dedicated to haunted locations. Amateur paranormal teams began making the trip into the forest to stream live investigations. One stream, uploaded to YouTube under the name Mirror Lake Haunt, gained over 1 million views before being removed for graphic content. Viewers who downloaded it say nothing violent was shown, just unsettling. The stream begins normally, with 2 men and a woman exploring the cabin by lantern light. Around the 27-minute mark, one of the men points his camera toward the main mirror hanging above the fireplace. The reflection shows all 3 of them, and a 4th person standing directly between them, taller than any of them, wearing something dark. No one reacts. They don't seem to see it. Then, for exactly 12 seconds, the camera flickers, and when it refocuses, the mirror is facing the opposite direction without any cut or movement. The crew leaves moments later, breathing heavily, the woman whispering, "Don't look back." Local authorities have since fenced off the property, though the fencing never stays intact. Hunters who pass through the area claim to see movement inside at night, as if someone's walking from mirror to mirror, tracing the walls with faint scratches. A retired ranger, interviewed anonymously in 2019, admitted he once entered the cabin out of curiosity. He described the air as thick and metallic, like a storm that never breaks. He stayed only a few minutes, long enough to notice something chilling. Though his reflection appeared in the mirror across the room, it didn't move when he did. As of today, the Corman cabin remains sealed under government notice, labeled as an unsafe structure. Yet satellite images taken during clear winters show light reflecting from the windows, even though the cabin hasn't had electricity for decades. Locals say the mirrors still turn themselves to face outward every Halloween, catching the light of the moon. And if you stand on the opposite shore of the lake, some nights you can see silhouettes inside, standing still, as if waiting for someone to come home. Those who go looking for the Corman cabin usually don't find it. But those who don't, sometimes claim it finds them. Story 4. The Meyer Apartment, Berlin, Germany. In a quiet neighborhood of Berlin's Charlottenburg district, surrounded by post-war apartment blocks, there's a building with no listing online, no rental agency, and no mailbox. To the city, it's just another address, 17 Uhlenstrasse. To locals, it's Das Stummhaus, the silent house. The building looks ordinary, 6 floors of pale concrete, small balconies lined with rusted railings, and a faded blue door that sticks in the winter. But if you ask anyone on the street, they'll tell you the same thing. No one ever moves in, yet lights turn on every night. The property records trace back to 1954, rebuilt after the war by a man named Otto Meyer, a German architect who returned to Berlin after serving as an engineer. He lived alone in the top-floor apartment and kept meticulous records of his tenants. For nearly a decade, everything seemed normal until November 3, 1963, when every tenant in the building reportedly packed up and left on the same night. No police reports were filed. No complaints. No violence. Just silence and keys left neatly on the ground floor desk. When officials entered the building days later, they found every door unlocked, every light still on, and meals half-eaten on tables. The only thing out of place was in the stairwell, black soot stains rising in the pattern of handprints up the wall, leading to the 6th floor. After that, Meyer himself vanished. The city eventually boarded the building, but maintenance workers continued to report strange activity. One worker claimed to hear faint murmuring from the intercom system, though it hadn't been connected to electricity in decades. Another described hearing footsteps pacing above him, even though he was working on the roof. By the early 2000s, the building had become a quiet obsession among urban explorers. Photos began circulating online showing apartment interiors preserved in eerie detail, coffee cups, framed photos, and furniture coated in gray dust. But in nearly all of them, a recurring anomaly appeared, a 4th-floor window glowing faint blue, even in total darkness. In 2012, a journalist named Lucas Brenner investigated the property for a local documentary series on post-war architecture. He and his cameraman entered legally with city approval, filming each floor in sequence. Their footage, though never broadcast, remains one of the most unsettling records of the building to exist. In the first hour of film, nothing seemed unusual until they reached apartment 6B, Otto Meyer's old residence. Inside, the air was cold enough to see their breath, despite the mild autumn weather. Dust lay thick on the furniture, but a cup of coffee still sat on the table, the liquid black and perfectly still. Brenner noted the clock on the wall read 11:47, though the batteries had long corroded. When his cameraman zoomed in, the clock's second hand twitched once. Then again. The footage freezes for half a second, then resumes with both men visibly shaken. Later that night, the team returned to their hotel. Brenner uploaded the footage, but when he replayed it, the audio track was missing, replaced by a low hum. The next morning, he reportedly called the production office in a panic, saying he could still hear that hum through the walls. 2 days later, Brenner checked out of his hotel and never returned home. The only trace left behind was a single email draft found on his laptop. The building isn't empty. It's remembering. After his disappearance, Berlin officials once again sealed the Meyer apartment. The city classified it as a structurally unsafe site, though no damage was reported. Since then, residents in nearby buildings have continued to report odd phenomena. Windows that fog from the inside on cold nights, faint silhouettes moving behind curtains, and an intercom that occasionally crackles with a woman's voice saying only, "Bit bleiben Sie leise." Please, stay quiet. Urban explorers who've tried to film the silent house claim their cameras refuse to focus near the stairwell, and audio recordings capture distorted breathing sounds synchronized with their own. One investigator, in a 2023 livestream, stood outside the building's front entrance describing the history of the Meyer apartment, when, without warning, a faint blue light flickered on in the 6th floor window behind him. He turned to look, smiled nervously, and said, "Looks like someone beat me inside." The video ended abruptly. To this day, the city keeps the building sealed, citing safety concerns. But residents insist that the lights still turn on every night at exactly 11:47 p.m., the same time Otto Meyer's clock froze 6 decades ago. And if you pass by quietly, you might hear the faint buzz of an old intercom. A woman's voice whispering through the static, reminding you, gently,